Just a programming note. This call for their immediate and unconditional release, including those held since 2000. The Secretary General condemns the reported killings and injuries of Palestinians who were seeking aid in Gaza yesterday. It is unacceptable that Palestinians are risking their lives for food. The Secretary General calls for an immediate and independent investigation into these events and for perpetrators to be held accountable. Israel has a clear obligation under international humanitarian law to agree to and facilitate aid, humanitarian aid, the unimpeded entry of assistance at scale to meet the enormous needs of the people in Gaza must be restored immediately. The United Nations must be allowed to work in safety and security under conditions that fully respects our humanitarian principles. The Secretary General continues to call for an immediate, permanent, and sustained ceasefire. All hostages must be released immediately and unconditionally. This is the only path to ensuring security for all. There is no military solution to this conflict. And turning to the situation on the ground, I can tell you that our humanitarian colleagues there from the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that in the last 2 days, partners reported scores of people killed and injured, apparently while gathering to receive supplies near the militarized distribution centers in Rafah and Deir al-Balah. Attacks against health facilities have also continued. Yesterday in North Gaza, the Noor al-Kabi Center for Dialysis was reportedly hit. The Ministry of Health in Gaza tells us that more than 40% of dialysis patients in Gaza have died since the escalation of hostilities in October 2023. This is because the centers were either struck or they are now unreachable. As hostilities continue, people have once again been forced to flee. On Saturday, Israeli authorities issued another displacement order in Khan Yunis and Deir al-Balah. This has affected about 100,000 people living in more than 200 displacement sites. 2 primary health care centers and 5 medical points are within the displacement area, while these 3 hospitals and 3 field hospitals and 7 primary health care centers and 20 medical points are located within 1,000 meters of it. Overall, since March 18th, our humanitarian partners estimate that more than 640,000 people, that's nearly a third of Gaza's entire population, have been displaced across the Gaza Strip. The latest displacement order also deprived at least 8,000 students of learning as tens of functioning temporary learning spaces and dozens of public schools had to suspend their operations. These closures constitute a severe setback for children in education, limiting their access to a safe and structured living environment. The United Nations and our humanitarian partners will continue their efforts to identify and treat malnutrition wherever possible, even as dwindling supplies get even lower. Last week, we and our partners distributed supplements to about 40,000 children, despite severe challenges and restrictions on humanitarian assistance. Meanwhile, as people endure deprivation and hunger and the absence of adequate food distribution, as well as looting incidents continue to be reported. The vast majority of people taking flour directly from our open trucks out of clear desperation, but our teams are also observing criminal looting yet again. We and our partners continue to call for the full lifting of the restrictions on aid and other essentials to ensure that the needs of civilians are met. This comes as people continue to suffer, but from frequent water shortages. The pipeline in Deir al-Balah, which has supplied at least 12,000 cubic meters of water every day, still not operational, and humanitarians' attempts to carry out coordinated missions to repair it have been denied. Today, 5 missions to distribute potable water in the displacement camps in Jabalia were also denied by Israeli authorities. Over the weekend, we and our partners kept working to bring supplies from the Palestinian side of Kerem Shalom crossing into Gaza. More than 100 truckloads of food and medical supplies were picked up on Saturday and Sunday, bringing more than 300 the number of truckloads picked up from the Gaza side of Kerem Shalom since it was reopened. Today, one of our attempts to collect supplies from that crossing was denied. Another is still ongoing, awaiting a green light from Israeli authorities, a pause in the bombing along the route, and the allocation of a viable path. Because of the Israeli weekend and holiday, the border was kept closed, blocking us from bringing more supplies from Israel through Karim Shalom since Saturday. When the crossing is open, even when the crossing is open, severe restrictions on what we can bring in, both in terms of volume and variety, means it's still just a trickle of what people actually need.
Any goods, or can anyone to Darfur?
No, we've not been able to get into Al Fashir.